Welcome in. We're going to get started. Hi, welcome in, Corinne. Okay, so this presentation is called What is GenAI and Can It Be Used Ethically? My name is Greg Bem. I'm one of the librarians. I'm one of 6 librarians here at the college. And I think I would like to say most of the librarians are interested in artificial intelligence and new technologies in general. 3 of us, including myself, run workshops regularly on this topic, including the 2 intro sessions this quarter, and as I'll show you at the end, 2 special topics this quarter as well. So if you like what you see today, please consider coming for the special topics. All right. Student newsletter. Yep, in your email. So here's our agenda. First, we'll talk about learning outcomes for this session. Then we'll do, well, actually, because there's a lot of folks in here today, we're going to skip the individual introductions. We're going to jump into a mystery activity, which is very mysterious. And then we will do some basic information on GenAI, information on ethics, another mystery activity, and then depending on how much time we have, we'll dive a little bit into implications for AI in the workforce. Does this sound reasonable? Okay. So here are some learning outcomes. This is what I would love for you to take away from today's session. First, understand definitions and basic knowledge of generative artificial intelligence, or what we call GenAI technology. 2, highlight basic tools, functionality, and trends. 3, explore higher education and professional contexts. 4, identify potential problems and benefits of the technology and ethical considerations. And ponder the recommended practices for using GenAI at the college. Now, real quick, because I know Carrie's in the room, do you have anything you want your students to take away as well, or just what we've got going on here? Okay, cool. So we're going to jump into this mystery activity. This involves using your phone to scan this QR code. It is a fun activity. We're using a new tool called AHA Slides. I see folks getting out your devices. That's cool. If you don't have a phone, there will be a small URL we can use as well. And the slides themselves also have the QR code. So, okay, we've got 1 person online. So I'm just going to share screen. Welcome, Melinda. That's not the screen I wanted to share. Window, let's just share one. Okay. All right. Don't freak out, y'all. I'm just going to move over to the slideshow and you will get the QR code again. Cool. And I see we have folks coming in, 10 already. 13 physically in the room, so that's cool. Feel free to get started. This is the first of 3 questions for this activity. Just to get a sense of what folks in the room know, what are some popular GenAI tools we're seeing these days? What have you heard of? If you've never heard of the term GenAI, that's okay. No pressure. Just sit tight. Let's see what some of the other folks are putting in. Right. They're flowing in here. We've got Copilot, ChatGPT, Claude, Google Gemini. Oh, wow. Okay. Logos, pics, interesting. DALL-E. It's moving so fast. Grok, Canva. Information. Pinterest AI. Interesting. I didn't know they had one. That's cool. Perplexity. Nice. So, cool. I think that's everybody's finished typing. GPT. Oh, no, there's still some more coming in. Yeah. Yep. Yep, it's called Multbook. Cool. Yeah. Forward. Cool. Thanks, y'all. Let's move on to the next question. How have you or someone you know used GenAI tools in the recent past? Good or bad examples are welcome. Feel free to throw in some spicy examples if you want. It's a Wednesday. Or maybe you just use it in a really chill sense. Create some fun cat pictures to send to your mom or something. I don't know. Business logos. Okay. And online, feel free to use the chat if you want. At any point, I will look at the chat. Funny pictures, learning global history in a conversational format. Interesting. Brainstorming, organizing thoughts. Good. Trying to create PowerPoint slides. Bad. Yes, I have for brand ideas. Okay. Yes, I used GPT chat for better understanding student topic and medical information. Google Search AI, most results are accurate. Trying to use it to parse data and see if it would protect the data. It may not, but it says it will. I uploaded a pic of my Instagram and asked ChatGPT what my aesthetic was. Interesting. Help me craft an email, design a PowerPoint slide. All right. Great responses, y'all. Thank you for your participation. I see you want, I'll give it one more minute. We got to move on. Revising a story arc for a character. Creative writing. I actually use these tools for creative writing myself. Okay, cool. That's it. And our final question for the first mystery activity. How strong is your ethical code when it comes to AI? Keyword there is ethics. If you've never even heard of it, don't know what that is, that's fine. Hey, it looks like we've got five folks have done 5, 4 have done 4, and 1 has done 1. Kind of like this curve. Speaking of aesthetic. All right, cool. So average is 3.4. So that's interesting. How was this activity for y'all? Liked it? Okay, cool. We are piloting it this quarter, so sounds good. Glad you all participated. Let's move back to our presentation here. So before I use a very, in my opinion, awesome definition of artificial intelligence, does anyone want to use their own words to describe what AI is? What is this mysterious thing called artificial intelligence? A lot of you have used these tools, yes.
Some sort of this kind of uses what we already know and find answers.
Great, yeah. So that's describing the functionality that we're seeing very accurately, using human knowledge to create new things. Any other ideas? Okay. So I'm going to use IBM's definition, and this text is really small. I'll share the slides to Carrie after this for those who are in her class. And if anyone else wants them, they'll be on the website. Artificial intelligence, or AI, is technology that enables computers and machines to simulate human learning, comprehension, problem solving, decision making, creativity, and autonomy. Applications and devices equipped with AI can see and identify objects. They can understand and respond to human language. They can learn from new information and experience. They can make detailed recommendations to users and experts. They can act independently, replacing the need for human intelligence or intervention. Think a classic car, a self-driving car, for example. In 2024, most AI researchers, practitioners, and most AI-related headlines are focused on breakthroughs in generative AI, or GenAI. That's what we're here to learn about today, which is a technology that can create original texts, images, video, and other content, as we also have seen with our activity earlier. To fully understand GenAI, it's important to first understand the technologies on which GenAI tools are built: machine learning and deep learning. Now, these we're not going to deeply dive into today, but if you would like to understand how all of this magic is happening, how ChatGPT is doing what it's doing, how Gemini is doing what it's doing, and so on and so forth, watch a few videos on YouTube or read a few articles about machine learning and deep learning and large language models. That will give you a sense of how these tools are taking human knowledge, processing it in algorithms to do what these tools do. So where have we seen AI in popular culture? We'll get to the details of GenAI in a minute, but just to kind of back up and think about conceptualizing the automation and simulation of these artificial intelligence systems, here are some examples. Has anyone seen any of the films on this list? Any like films you think of when you think of AI that pop into your mind? Popular sci-fi or things that resonate with you? Mm. Yeah, that's a really good point. Chatbots and relationship partners, romance. Whole industry there as well. Any other examples of films or popular media in the back?
Things in now, and the AI like running the house.
Oh, interesting.
I can't remember what it's
Does
called.
anyone else see that one?
Yeah. But it's fairly recently.
Okay.
Yeah, eventually, like it's the mom robot kind of, and eventually, yes, of course, she takes over and like lots of. Because moms do that.
One that I should put on this list that came out recently is Megan. Anyone see Megan? Or Megan 2.0? Black Mirror, yeah. Yeah, those are great examples. Black Mirror, Iron Man. Black Panther. Okay, Black Panther, not Iron Man?
My favorite Black Panther and Iron Man.
Okay.
My favorite movie, The Matrix.
The Matrix, which is on there, yeah. Cool. What about books? Does anyone read anymore? Books, in many cases, predated films, case of sci-fi genre content. Here are some really big ones. I, Robot, which is also a great film with Will Smith. Snow Crash, Neil Stephenson, local Washingtonian author. Neuromancer, William Gibson, really defined the cyberpunk genre, which has a lot of AI in it. And of course, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which features a technology that they're now making in real life, which are those earbuds that auto-translate other languages in real time. Babelfish is what it's called in Hitchhiker's Guide. So you can see that this technology that we're seeing today in GenAI, even though it's not necessarily powering starships and we're not talking to it in all the ways that they do or using it in all the ways that they do in these examples, still kind of can remind us of these examples. Now let's think about GenAI again. GenAI is, again, that kind of lower level AI that is generating content. So the images, the videos, the text, etc. And it runs on what we call large language models. And these are algorithms, algorithmic systems. They're using advanced machine learning and pattern recognition technology. So a great example is you give a computer system 1 billion images of a cat, and you say, this is what a cat is, and it will look at all of the patterns, the tail, the ears, the back, the mouth, the whiskers, all of the things, the qualities that make a cat. And then it will be able to synthesize, pull them together in different ways because there are different types of cats, of course. And then it will be able to produce or generate an example of a cat if you ask it for that. Now, these tools are doing that for cats and cars and humans and all of the things in between, billions and billions of data sets or pieces of data in the data sets. When we think about LLMs, so the actual LLM is often in the title of the tool. So in the case of ChatGPT, GPT, or Generative Pre-trained Transformer, is what that acronym stands for. That is the name of that large language model. And often they will have like version numbers like GPT-4 or 5, et cetera. As I mentioned, they're trained on large sets of data, and the data that's included in those can range from books and articles to social media posts to transcripts of movies and audio and more. Anything that has been recorded or documented, these tech companies, legally and illegally, are gathering up, putting in their systems, and training their systems on. Any questions on that? So where is AI? Where can we find AI? How many of you have used an AI app on your phone? So a bunch of hands in the room go up. There are also apps and browser access through web pages. There's also offline options. You can actually download open source software and download individual languages, large language models, onto your computer. And then you don't even need the internet to run them. It will just use your own technology. So that access is available as well. We are seeing this technology in the standalone tools, such as Gemini, for example, which is on my phone, or embedded in tools we already use. And this is really important for thinking about our future workplace. Windows now has Copilot all over it in Windows 11. Did you know that Office was recently rebranded to Copilot 365? Yes. So now we no longer are going to have Office in the same way we have in the past. Android. If you buy an Android phone now, you most likely will have a bunch of AI on it already. Adobe, the different software suite applications like Photoshop have an AI aspect to it. Somebody mentioned creating slides. Somebody mentioned Pinterest. We're seeing these technologies embedded in former instances of those technologies. So any other examples? Like, have you seen AI show up in the apps or websites you use? What are some examples folks have seen? Google. So like just using Google, yep, you get the AI at the top usually. Yep.
This music software I use, they started in
Okay.
certain chord progression and certain key with certain instrument, they'll figure it out.
Okay, so it's in a music software. Anything else? Yeah.
It's like doom scrolling on TikTok. I have AI show up all the time, trying to give you recommendations and answer questions.
Oh, interesting. So TikTok has an AI thing. Interesting. Anybody else? This video game I play where wins meet. Now every character you talk to, there's like a little AI chat box, and you can actually ask every character, and there are thousands of them in the game. You can ask any character anything, and they'll just have full conversations. It's like, okay, I got to stop talking to you. I got other things to do. It's overwhelming. So yeah, it's kind of coming about all over the place. As I mentioned, there is an open source component, so you can find AI for free out there in public, and there's also the proprietary. So even those free apps like ChatGPT, that's technically proprietary. They could start charging at any time. It's not designed to be open. The reason why it's free is because they're using your data to train it and improve it, and then eventually they will sell all of that as capitalism works. Where is GenAI? We have talked about how it shows up in a lot of different places technologically. It also shows up in a lot of different places in terms of the type of content. We've talked about this a couple times today. GenAI is impacting our world in the context of text, audio, image, video, and all of the multimodalities, PowerPoint slides, for example, presentations, all these different types of websites and applications that can use GenAI to power and function. Here are a few of the popular GenAI tools of today. Has anyone heard of ChatGPT? Okay, what about Copilot? What about Google's Gemini? What about Claude? Couple hands go up. What about DeepSeek? Anyone heard of DeepSeek? Few people. DeepSeek is the one on the list that was not created in the US. It is open source. It's free. You can download it and edit it if you wanted to. It is created in China. So let's talk for a moment about prompts, iterations, and automation. What is a prompt? Does anyone have an understanding of what that word means? Yeah. Yes. So in this case, we're going to be talking about how we're informing or instructing the tool to complete a task or to give us some kind of generated content. What about an iteration? What does that word mean? Yes. And it also has a component of multiple. So iteration is one of many. And so in the case, well, let's just move forward with the slide. So we've got the fact that there is, sorry, I'm reviewing these bullets here. GenAI interfaces have a prompt bar, so you would put that prompt or instruction into the bar. The prompt you can think of as a phrase. You can type it in your own language, or you can use keywords, similar to using a search engine or a library search box. But it's not just a search box. It is going to be responding to anything you say. You say hello, it will say hello back. You say, give me a chord progression. It might ask some clarifying questions and then provide a chord progression. It really depends on the tool, how it works, but it is a very robust tool that starts off blank. Most of these tools have examples of prompts alongside them, so that if you are just new or you're stuck, it will give you some inspiration. Going back to the iterations mean multiple instructions in this case. And so you can think of many of these tools as being conversational. You can provide some kind of input, get some kind of output, and then you can provide additional input in the same conversation to continue that engagement. That is not how Google works. That is not how Bing works. It is very different because it's not just a one-off over and over and over again. In the context of workforce and education, there are these terms here in quotes: prompt engineering and AI literacy. Has anyone heard of these before? Have they come up in your class or you're working? So prompt engineering is the idea that you can become an expert at using those tools, knowing which prompts to use in order to successfully complete tasks. We see it occasionally come up in the context of different jobs. You might see on a like an Indeed or a LinkedIn ad for a job that the prompt engineering is a component of the job. That may not necessarily mean you have to be an expert going in, because a lot of companies have their own LLMs and their own GenAI tools, but it's something that you might need to learn how to do. The same way you would need to learn how to use the email client or navigate their file system, etc. AI literacy, similarly, it's your ability to use GenAI tools effectively. That might or might not be possible given how fast things are changing. I feel like I know a lot about GenAI, and I also need to keep up every single day. So these just might be buzzwords. They might not actually have specific meanings, but I think it's important to keep your eye on them. Another thing to be aware of is agentic AI. Has anyone heard of agentic AI before? Yeah, Corinne, what's agentic AI?
Specific version of an AI. So they'll use their large language model. Like you'll be using Copilot, but it's an instance that is designed specifically to complete a specific process or task. So maybe it's like reading emails for you. And trying to pull out specific information from your emails, for example. So it's designed to do a specific task.
Yes, that is half of what agentic AI, in my experience, has been, is completing specific tasks. The other aspect is that it can complete tasks over time or tasks that have multiple steps. I like to use the example of the travel agent. So you could create a GenAI powered bot, an agent that could solve your problem of designing a trip. So if I wanted to go to South Florida, go hang out in Miami, go down to the Keys, whatever, I could go do that on my own and spend however many hours it is figuring out the flights, figuring out the hotels, figuring out the car, figuring out the activities, etc. Or I could type in design a 7-day trip to South Florida, and it would spend not just 30 seconds like we see most of these Gen AI tools spend, but it could spend several hours, and it would go through all of the information. It would provide me with all of the examples, all of the steps, organizing it in a single document or output that I could then use. And now we're even seeing that we can connect these agents to other apps to do even more work for us. So imagine if suddenly I didn't need to go to the airline site and buy the tickets. I didn't need to go to the rental car site and buy those, get that reservation. What if it just did it all for me because it had access to my credit card information, my calendar, and all of that? Yeah, and that is something that can be done. And it can also do other things like in a corporate or office environment where you need to look at your emails. Let's say you get a ton of emails and you want to flag them or you want to automate some kind of process and engaging with them. You could create an agent AI for that. It goes even deeper. We can see agentic AIs creating music. There's now like playlist. I don't know if anyone's seen these, but there's like not playlists, but like live streams on YouTube, and it's just kind of like going and going and going. On the back end, there is just an agent that is creating more and more and more algorithmically. So this is definitely happening now. The problem is we see a lot of it, but we don't see all of it. So that's what a lot of people are saying is the next phase of Gen AI is that it's going to be invisible. We're not even going to know that it's happening because people are just going to be using it without telling other people that they're using it and building systems and building processes with it and not necessarily having to disclose that they are. So I haven't even shown anyone any examples of AI. It seems like most people in the room have used AI, but maybe not everyone. So I'm going to show you a tool that I like to recommend to students because it is not going to provide information without sources. So every time you use Perplexity, you will get sources in the response. You can think of it as an AI-powered search engine. And it can also do other things. It can provide explanations. It can do synthesis, but it will provide sources for the responses. So perplexity.ai, if you want to follow along on your own device, there is an app. Also, it is free if you have an EDU email. Yes. Yes. Yes, that is a great question. Every tool you should take it all with a grain of salt. You should critically think about it. Make sure you look at those original sources. If you're citing or using any of that information, in your research or your schoolwork. Very good point. That being said, what I like about Perplexity is it does provide those sources, as we are about to see. So I'm going to say I am a college student and I want to learn GenAI prompting. Can you provide some examples? Okay. Yes. So yeah, if you are if you have an EDU email, which you do if you're an SEC student or employee, you can sign up for the Pro account for free using your EDU email. I'm not logged in right now, so it's just going to do the basic thing. But one thing to note also, if you do use Perplexity, the basic search will just search the web and then provide the GenAI explanation. You can also do some other search options here, like deep research, and it will look for academic sources, et cetera. So when I enter this in, it is looking on the web and it's finding sources for this response. And each, as you can see here, each paragraph shows you a page that it pulled this information from. And specifically, I also wanted to highlight some of these examples just to show you how you might use GenAI in different ways as a student. So for example, I'm a first-year biology student. Explain the light-dependent reactions in photosynthesis as if you're a patient tutor, using simple language and a step-by-step structure. Then give me a 5-question quiz at the end so I can check my understanding. Help me understand a concept. Start by asking me 3 questions to see what I already know, then fill in the gaps and correct any misconceptions you notice. There's a lot of different things here. Prompts to learn concepts, prompts for writing and research, prompts for studying and exam prep, time management in college life, communication and group work, and so on and so forth. At the end, it will provide you a list of the sources that it used. And if you wanted to, you could click through and go to these sources to read the examples of the prompts that have been provided there. And you can see that the sources range from Harvard to UMA to Coursera. There's a lot of different web pages that it's pulling from. Any questions on that, on Perplexity? All right. Let's go back to this. So let's pivot for a second to ethics. Ethics, when we're thinking about ethics, we can feel comfortable because for thousands of years, philosophers have been thinking about ethics. It's nothing new. What is good? What is bad in society, within ourselves? And how does that show up or form a sort of code in how we interact with the world? In society, especially today's society, one might think of the term social contract as defining what we implicitly agree to when it comes to good and bad in society. What is right? What is wrong? And often there are differing opinions on that, right? When we walk down the street, you might see 10 people and they might have completely different opinions on how the world should work. That is ethics. Often we're landing somewhere in between of right and wrong. And we have to balance our own sense of right and wrong, good and bad, with other structures in place. That can include your employer, that can include your school, your teacher, your librarian, that can include your family members, your friend group, your church or social organization. Any of these spaces that we occupy, there's going to be different ethical foundations. Some may be similar, some may be very different. And so what those contexts look like, I mean, they're very fluid, and sometimes we don't even think about them. A lot of it can be unconscious. Why do you think I'm bringing this up in the context of generative artificial intelligence today? Yes.
Cheating.
Cheating. Do you want to explain a little bit more about that?
You don't want
No.
to.
Yeah. So as an educator, we don't want you to plagiarize or cheat using technology. Good. Yes?
Ethics. And claiming the work of art, being that you're the person who put in the prompt, who deserves the credit and is it actual art.
Yeah. Great. Art, intellectual property, creativity. Yeah. That's another great example. Any other thoughts on ethics in Gen AI? Yeah. How does that relate to Gen AI?
With a library.
Yeah.
And search some article for this topic.
Yeah.
Sometimes I use ChatGPT for easy research some material, some
Okay.
article.
I'm liking the spectrum of experience here. Oh, go ahead. Environmental impact.
What we're gonna do, like how much resources and power that we're taking up.
Yeah. It's a huge, huge issue. Let's see a lot of the different issues. You've mentioned them today, but the good and the bad of Gen AI, the right and the wrong of Gen AI. On one hand, it's a magical tool that can do things so quickly and so magically to us. And on the other hand, we have these issues that some of you have identified. And so we need to think about them, ponder them, balance how we use these technologies as we go forward, because we are ethical people and we are exploring what is right and wrong in society. And a lot of the world is being impacted by this technology. So I'm just going to go quickly through some of the bigger kind of buckets of challenges. There are some that won't be on here. One that came up a minute ago, citation and intellectual theft. How are these tools used and to what degree? If you are using them, should you cite them? Can you cite them? Or do you just use them to find information and cite that information on other websites? Intellectual theft. Who put the data in the data set? Big tech, in many cases, stole information and put it in their data sets without consent, without permission from those creators. And then suddenly we have access to it. What is that all about? Another bucket, access issues. So I mentioned that there's open source and proprietary. Not all of the tools are free. Not all of the tools' most powerful functions, their most latest and greatest models are available for free. How much is the most expensive ChatGPT subscription right now? $250 or something a month? That's not $2.50. That's $250. Can we afford this? You don't need to raise your hand, but rhetorical question. I can't. But someday that might put certain people hierarchically in society above other people in work, etc. So think about that. Environmental impact, this came up earlier. So these pieces of technology don't just operate in the ether, they are literally using electricity and require water for their cooling of the facilities. And the data centers that are being built all over the place. Do you want more facilities installed on the Columbia River in Washington? Because Amazon already is doing that. Water bodies that are already poisoned, already dealing with environmental impacts from 100 years ago, are now facing a new effective impact. Impacts on learning. This is a huge one for us, especially in this class. When you're using a new technology that's providing a lot of information really fast, that may seem really great, but it may also impact your learning. It may be able to support your learning style. You may be neurodivergent. You may need information provided to you in a certain way. It may help with your language and what language or languages you like to use, all of these different types of features. but it's also providing so much information so quickly that it can have cognitive impact. If you get a wall of text, how much of that wall of text are you going to read? There's a concept called information overload. Has anyone heard that? It's a threshold you meet when you're exposed to information in a certain sitting. We only can fill our cup so much before it starts flowing over. And that's when we feel things like anxiety, confusion, overwhelm, and we stop learning. We stop learning because there's no more space in the moment in our heads, in our brains. So how these tools help or harm us in the process of what we're learning and how we're reading and how we're engaging with our content is a big question. Safeguards and oversight. So some of these tools provide access to all of the topics. Some of them don't allow certain topics. If you want to learn about, the very fun topics, as I describe them, violence, sex, popular figures in culture, some of the tools won't actually give you information or allow you to go very deep down those paths. But who's regulating it? Is it the tech companies? Is it the government? Who's doing all of those decisions? And a huge one, systemic biases in human knowledge. All of human knowledge, everything we say, everything we do has bias. Everything that's been written and recorded also has that bias, those many biases. And so if there's bias in the human knowledge that's feeding those data sets, that means what you read, what you engage with in these tools is probably biased in certain ways. The problem is it won't necessarily tell you what those biases are because it's pulling from thousands and thousands of different pieces of data. And so as I mentioned earlier, some of that data is social media. You all know what social media posts are like, right? Some of it is books from 1870s. A lot in there to unpack. And so there's problems. And it goes back to what you said about, should we trust or accept this information without thinking about it? No, we should ask ourselves, what are we looking at? How can we verify that information? And how can we critically think about it? Here are some more fun ones. There's huge privacy considerations. When you enter information into these tools, what are the companies doing with that data? How is this technology going to impact workforce and job transformation? It already has. How is it going to continue doing that? What about the fact that it's culturally normal? That many people use it without even questioning or thinking about it. My mom sends me that AI video of that dog running around, and I'm like, how much water went into this? Do I even care? But it's my mom. I'm not going to call her out on that. She's just having a fun time. There's a movement about rejecting AI. And I think this is important to recognize in the future workplace too. You might work with people who really do not like it for those ethical conversations I mentioned. How do we balance people that actively refuse to use it versus those that only know how to use it or love using it? And another one is brain rot and AI slop. So again, going to that video that my mom sent me recently, does it have any value or is it just regurgitating what we otherwise could make as humans? Yes.
That got out of control. We didn't really have enough time to put rules and regulations around it. Look what happened. And this is 10 times worse.
Yeah. It's a big conversation. The short answer is there isn't enough being done. There are lawsuits in place that some have been successful from authors and other creators regarding intellectual property. In some places, like in Europe, there are privacy regulations that are being put in place. In terms of here in the US, it's really challenging because framed through capitalism, we're competing with China. That's the big conversation. How do we keep up with China? Whether or not you agree or care about that conversation, that's how the government tends to frame it. And so it's we want as much put behind it as we can, which means lack of regulation, not deregulation, Was there another hand? Yeah. Yeah, that's a huge thing too. And we see that with Grok recently and child pornography and all of those things, sure. Real, very real issues that are coming. Yeah.
How did we figure out what they're using?
How do we figure out what the companies that have created the LLMs are using?
Yeah, because you said that they're throwing in information and something else,
Yeah.
like whether that's audio, whether that's, right?
Yeah.
And so, how can anyone figure out, until after it's been used?
That is a great question. I'm not sure I have an exact answer on you. I know that part of the legal process that I've seen has involved like getting access to some of those LLMs. I know there was one recently with Spotify and this band King Gizzard and Lizard Wizard, and they found a bunch, they left Spotify because they found a bunch of their music basically emulated and recreated in different ways without their permission. There's also like the cultural conversation about people hearing about these things and then like leaving. And there may or may not be an easy way to like pursue a legal process against that company or that technology. But anyway, great questions, huge, and maybe not necessarily easy to answer answers. I want to make sure we get to, in our last few minutes, our scenarios for our final mystery activity. But here are some benefits. You could use these tools, as we saw with Perplexity, to do some role playing with like a tutor style chatbot. You can communicate and get information in tones and styles of voice that might be familiar or useful to you. It can respond to issues like learning styles, disabilities, neurodivergence. Can provide precision in answers that, you know, a single book might not be able to provide. Yeah, there's a few things. So let's do the second activity here real quick. It's another AHA slides, but it's a little bit different. So sorry, I know you're all pulling out your phone. One sec, let me load it up on here. Cool. All right, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna read in the last 2 minutes, I'm gonna read 3 scenarios. And I'm going to ask folks if they think the scenario is ethical, not ethical, it's complicated, or I don't know. Sound good? All right, they're very short. And you can scan the QR code again after when we go back. But scenario 1, Maya is a community college student in Composition 1 who starts using GenAI to brainstorm topics for a 5-page argumentative essay, but quickly shifts into asking it to create the outline, draft the introduction, and generate body paragraphs, and she only lightly edits the text before submitting it as her own work. The syllabus allows AI for brainstorming, but prohibits submitting AI-generated writing, and Maya also uses AI to add citations, including sources she hasn't read or verified. Maya feels justified because she's overwhelmed with work and family responsibilities and believes AI is just an advanced writing tool like Grammarly. Let's go ahead and put our answers in. And I see we have 7 people, 8. All right, so it seems like most folks have said, no, this is not ethical. Can I get one person to tell me why they said it's not ethical? Yes.
The syllabus and the rules that outline her, use of AI have limited her, and she's going beyond the house usage. So objectively, she's obviously not doing, or breaking rules.
Yeah.
I also, that, not only that, but she also didn't do the work herself, and it is not right to submit something that you didn't do yourself.
Mm-hmm. And that goes back to the questions of what is right and wrong. And predominantly in our society, doing the work yourself is right, as opposed to, using a tool to do the work for you or doing it by rote. Scenario 2, Jordan, a community college student in general biology with a documented learning disability, uses GenAI as a study support tool to summarize dense textbook readings into simpler language, generate practice quiz questions, explain confusing concepts in different ways, and help create a study plan. Jordan doesn't use AI during quizzes or exams and doesn't submit AI-generated work as assignments, but hesitates to tell the professor because the course policy does not mention AI, and Jordan fears being accused of cheating. Some classmates also don't have access to the same tools or don't know how to use them effectively. Is this ethical use of AI, GenAI? Right, nice. I love when we get multiple. Okay, while people are filling it out, who said it's ethical? Or does someone want to say why they said it's ethical? Let's hear from someone else. Yes.
I just think it's ethical because just because you know how to find something in different ways doesn't mean you can't use it. And if you got some kind of disability where you had to use different ways to find something, then that's all you're doing is you know how to find different ways to find something, compile it, and put it out there.
Yeah.
You're still doing it the right way. You're not doing it the wrong way. You're just getting information.
All right. Anyone? Yes.
Like being something called AI,
Oh, okay. Yeah. AIUP. Could be a new thing. All right. Real quick, let's do the final one because I know y'all got to get out of here. Scenario 3, Lena works part-time at a local HR staffing office while attending community college, and to work faster, she copies candidate resumes and interview notes, including personal details and her impressions, into a GenAI tool to draft rejection emails, summarize strengths and weaknesses, and recommend which applicants to advance. Her supervisor encourages efficiency but provides no clear AI policy, and Lena gets praised for her productivity until IT flags her behavior as a privacy and data security risk, since the AI tool may store or reuse data. Lena didn't intend harm and thought she was simply using a helpful workplace tool. Is that ethical? Not ethical? It's complicated. I don't know. Who said it, or who wants to share why they said it's complicated? Okay. In the back.
If people kind of a gray area, it goes from becoming ethical versus not ethical towards just what's your general opinion. Obviously, like the prompt says IT flagged it, and then I would say that swings to one side not being ethical, especially if they have company policies that outlines them or not. But I think it's more complicated.
Cool. Thank you all. Yes, here's my favorite image in this whole presentation. Ethics is messy. So as we're going forward, as you continue to be here as a student at the college and out in all the other contexts in your life, remember that it's messy. We are also learning. You can think about having your own sense of what is right and wrong now. Every step of the way, there's room for reflection and thinking about what the people around you, the structures around you believe or permit. So food for thought as you go about the rest of your day and into the rest of your lives. Thank you all for being here. I want you to know that there are those 2 other topics later this quarter, one on search results and one on career workflows. Again, check the student newsletter for that, and we'll see you soon. Have a nice day. Thank you, Melinda.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for your participation.
I have a question.
What's up?
Are you scared?
Am I scared?
Yeah.